Welcome to NCSS Here for You. For over 50 years, Northwestern Counseling and Support Services has been providing access to quality psychosocial services to the residents of Franklin and Grand Isle counties. Over the years, as the needs of the community have changed, so too have the programs and services that we make available to assist children, adolescents, adults, families, and seniors. We take our role in the community seriously, and we strive to provide the highest quality services. According to Eric Erickson, a noted developmental psychologist, every person must pass through a series of 8 interrelated stages over the entire life cycle. NCSS provides a continuum of services to meet the needs of individuals who at any point seek assistance. NCSS's purpose is creating a stronger community, one person at a time. Now, let's get to today's show. I'm Joe Halco, Director of Community Relations for Northwestern Counseling and Support Services, and welcome to another episode of NCSS Here for You. Each month in this program, we discuss a topic of interest to local residents, and we do that with staff from one of our 3 direct services divisions. Our service divisions are Behavioral Health Services, Children, Youth, and Family Services, and Developmental Services. And on occasion, we have a member of our administrative staff discuss topics that affect all of our services. This month's episode is titled Quality Childcare. There are approximately 44 licensed early education and school-age centers and over 150 registered home child care providers in Franklin and Grand Isle counties. For families to obtain child care, there are different options to consider depending on their location, the ages of their children, and their needs. Today we'll discuss the topic of quality child care from both the provider and family perspectives. To discuss quality child care in greater detail, I'm pleased to introduce this month's guests, and they are Jan Walker, Director of Workforce Development and Quality Enhancement, Child Development Division for the state of Vermont; Cheryl Wells, Registered Family Home Child Care Provider, Starting Points Network Leader, and Vermont Birth to 3 Mentor; and Michelle Treya, NCSS Child Care Resource Development Specialist. I'd like to welcome all of you to the show this month. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Well, let's start with, what does quality child care look like?
The provider offers guidance, encouragement, and love. The learning environment is set up in a way that encourages the child to explore and learn at their own pace.
Okay. And quality child care is so important. Would you explain the critical nature of having the correct environment during the first 5 years of a child's development?
Absolutely. What we know right now is about 40,000 of Vermont's children, which is about 71% of Vermont's children, are in care outside of their home during the day. And what we also know through research is that over 90% of the architecture of the brain is put in place by the time a child is 5. So if children are exposed to positive environments that promote appropriate child development, it lays a great foundation for this brain development. If they are not in the positive environments, then children can learn the skills that are needed for success. However, it does take longer as the child ages, but is also what research shows. So it really is about giving children these positive environments and these quality environments from the get-go so that we get it right the first time to help children with their skills. And it's also about positive interactions with teachers and children to build attachment, which is critical to children's growth. So quality really does matter from the get-go.
Because you always hear that so often, and I think a lot of times people may not be able to connect the why of that.
Right. So it's about building that architecture of the brain from the get-go.
And how do you see child care trending in Vermont?
Well, there are a couple things. First of all, with the state of Vermont has lost in the past 3 years about 1,800 slots for children in child cares around the state, so that presents a need for families.
At the same time, we have a challenge in some ways keeping providers in the workforce. What I see now is that providers who are in the workforce are becoming pretty intentional about what they're doing and how they're doing it. I've been in the field for 20 some odd years, and providers have always been interested in learning new things and doing good by children and families. It's just now there seems to be more of an intentional structure to doing it. And we're also seeing about 8,000 of those families that are children that are in childcare. Their families are eligible for some financial assistance in helping pay for childcare. And the way we have our quality childcare structure linked with subsidy, we're seeing trending that more low-income families eligible for help in paying for childcare are enrolled in higher quality programs, which is a good thing.
Well, I was going to say too, Jan, when you talk about the cost of child care as well, again, depending on how many children a family may have, what their circumstances are, I can imagine that in today's environment, that's extremely, extremely complex in trying to figure out how do we do this.
Yeah, it's a large part of the typical family's budget, and it is a good thing that there is some assistance for some folks. I'm glad now that there is a relationship between quality and financial assistance, although there's never enough, and more families could be helped if there were more resources to help them pay for childcare.
Now, due to the decline in registered and licensed childcare businesses, let's talk about, again, the critical need for more of these providers to be able to assist the growing trend.
Well, basically, again, because of the decline in slots, there is a need in several communities in the Franklin and Grand Isle area for there to be more providers. We currently actually have 3 towns that have no full-day, full-year regulated programs, and those towns are North Hero, Isle Lamont, and Montgomery. Even in the other towns where there are programs that are already in existence, infant slots can be very hard to come by. Sometimes there basically are none, which forces the family to have to travel outside of their hometown to find care, which adds an extra burden of time and expense to get there. And there's also a need also for more families for care for children that are in specialized services. So there are families with children with special needs or children that might have family services involvement. So there definitely is a need throughout the towns, and I would say throughout the state of Vermont from the conversations with my fellow resource development specialists.
Now, if someone is looking to start a child care business, whether it's either in their home or in a separate location, who do they call? How do they do it?
Michelle and I are going to both answer this question. I thought I'd mention that for decades now, there's been a law on the Vermont books that says if you want to care for children from more than 2 families, you have to be either registered and do it in your home or licensed if you're going to be doing it in some other place. So there is a need to kind of check in if you're thinking about taking care of children, because there is some concern and some intentionality on the state's part and the federal government's part on caring for vulnerable populations, and children fit in there. So that's something I just wanted to mention. And because it's so important, the state does put some resources behind helping child care providers figure out how to go about this. And Michelle and the Child Care Services out of Northwest Counseling Services are one of the 12 agencies that are funded to help families find child care, and for child care providers to help figure out what they need to do to start a child care business. And so Michelle would be the person that they might talk to locally.
So basically, Joe, what they would do is if someone was looking to open a registered child care home, they would give me a call, and I would walk them through the process of how they would go about do that. And I would mail them an application packet, which also includes the state of Vermont's child care regulations, so that they would know what they need to be following when they do open. And along the way through the process, they can give me a call so that I can let them know where they're at in the process, what the next steps are, and just answer any questions that they may have. If they're looking to open a licensed facility, whether that's a home licensed facility or a licensed center, then what I would ask them to do is actually contact one of our licensors. I would give them number to one of the local licensors here, because that process goes through the Child Development Division licensing, and they would get them situated. But again, I could be a support person along the way just to help get them started.
So to get in touch with you, what number would they reach you at?
They can call me at 393-6599. That is my direct line.
Okay, why don't you say it one more time, just in case somebody didn't get a pen in time.
All right, it's 393-6599.
Okay. Now, let's take a look at, for a moment, the impact of child care options on the business community. Excuse me. And I think this is important to discuss because I think all too often a lot of employers perhaps don't take the long view of the importance of their employees having the appropriate child care and everything that goes along with that. So that's why I'd like you to discuss just how important this aspect is so that individuals can work in a particular job and know that their children are safe throughout the course of the day.
It is a real economic issue. Many years ago when I was working on getting some more funding to help train child care providers, I looked at the economic development plans of regions, and every single one of those plans targeted child care as a need to develop because it was deemed and recognized as an economic value to the community and a value to the businesses. Employers, should care, and maybe this might help people think about it, that their employees have a child care in order to work, and to feel good about the child care helps employees feel good about coming to work.
Sure.
And allows them to be dependable and show up to work if they have dependable, high-quality child care.
And if parents are searching for support, who do they call?
Well, basically, they should call us here at the Family Center, which is at Northwestern Counseling and Support Services. I'm a member of what's called the Family and Community Support Services team. And as Jan alluded to, we're one of the 12 regional child care support services teams, and we service Franklin and Grand Isle counties. We support referrals to child cares based on information that the families give us on their search criteria. We use the Bright Futures Information System, which is a statewide database to connect families to providers that have openings that meet their needs. And we also offer child care financial assistance services for families that might be eligible. The other things that we do is we also have children's integrated services where there's a specialized child care coordinator who helps support specialized child care and can assist families who are looking for care for children with special needs or those sorts of pieces, and also can consult with those programs. And we also have a children's integrated services coordinator who can assist families in finding other services that they might need, including early intervention, nurses, or supports through early childhood and family mental health. And the reason I mention that is what we find often is that when a family calls looking for child care, they're often looking for other things as well. There could be other things going on in the family, so who do we connect them to and those sorts of pieces. Those are some of the services that we offer on the team, and as you alluded to, Joe, there's more that we offer at Northwestern Counseling and Support Services that we could help hook them up to.
Sure, absolutely. Now, what should parents look for in child care when searching out for child care?
The parent should look for a provider that connects with their child and has a program that meets the needs of that child and that family.
And once someone has made a decision on a provider, you had already mentioned it, Cheryl, but that relationship between the parent and that provider, if you could speak to just how important that truly is, as opposed to I'm going to utilize this provider and perhaps the parent doesn't connect.
Right.
just the
Yes.
different scenarios.
The relationship is everything. When you enter into a team, you basically become a team, and you have to work towards the goals that you have set for your child. And if that provider isn't on board, or there are times that it doesn't work. You can just tell that it's not a connection. You're not able to do what it is that the family wants you to do, or they're just not feeling it. I always say, if whatever your feeling is, if you get a great feeling with that provider and your child gets that great feeling and you can work together, that's great. Because if you can't, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So the relationship is huge.
And speaking of the relationship and quality, can you explain the importance of the STARS program? And also, can you please tell the audience what STARS is an acronym for as well?
It's all you.
We can all chime in here. But STARS stands for Step Ahead Recognition System. We took the ST out of STEP and used it for STARS. And it's also reflective of the nature of this model for recognizing quality. It's the Vermont Quality Recognition and Improvement System that all regulated programs, the registered homes and the licensed centers, can all take steps in and to have pathways to improve their quality and be recognized for the things they may already have in place. Cheryl was talking about something that I think is an element that could be in STARS, which is in the families and community arena. We want childcare providers, and childcare providers really should know how to appreciate and understand families and work with them in a positive way, just as they need to understand child development and know how to set up environments that support their learning. And so our quality recognition and improvement system, called STARS, has 5 different areas that programs can demonstrate that they're doing above and beyond what they have to do to be licensed. And one is families and community. At a basic thing is asking families for feedback about their program. And that sort of sets the stage for any number of other things that they might do beyond that would be recognized. And that can be a combination of being informed more and also being recognized for what they're doing. Another arena is program practices, and that sets up steps to evaluate how you're doing in your program using a special program evaluation tool. And you can work with that tool with a person who knows it, and then when you feel real comfortable, you can have another person come in and formally assess how you're doing. And that's just a piece of that particular arena. And providers, even good providers, are generally saying that framework has helped them recognize how good they are, and also provide additional strategies and ideas that will help them even improve. So that's what STARS is. And around the trending, I thought of this in that context too. This program has been in place for roughly 6 years now. So it's been around a little while, and right now there's about 70% of the licensed programs participating, and thanks to some of the mentoring that Cheryl's going to talk about and the work that people like Michelle have done, we're getting close to 20% of family child care, and I'm looking forward to that trend increasing as well.
And here in Franklin, Grandisle County, we have about 33%, so about a third of our overall programs are in STARS. And if parents do ask for referrals from us, the profile that they get of the provider that has openings will tell whether or not that they have STARS, so parents will be able to see that from the get-go.
I see. Okay.
I really like the idea of parents using STARS as it's a place to maybe begin their inquiry. But what Cheryl was saying, STARS doesn't trump that relationship.
Sure.
But hopefully STARS can be supportive of that and help there be a good match. Parents talking to providers about where they're at in STARS, I think, is a great thing. And kind of go forward together in looking at the good things for their children.
And I just want to just say on another end, if you're not in STARS, it doesn't mean that you're not a quality program. So that's where the mentoring is coming in, is we're actually going into homes and showing providers why it is a good thing to be in STARS. So I just don't want people to think that if the provider doesn't have STARS, it doesn't mean they're not a quality program.
Sure. Yeah, I guess, another way to look at it, it's just another area for somebody to use in their thought process of making a decision. And it, as you say, Cheryl, it's not the end all, but it's certainly something else that you can check off and say, well, here's what this provider offers and where they're at. And I guess, again, it doesn't mean if they're not involved that they're not a good provider. Okay. Now, what is out there for programs or providers to support the quality improvement that we've been talking about today?
Well, we have a few structures that, STARS is one of those structures. Michelle Treya and her colleagues and those community agencies that are providing newsletters, conferences, a schedule of workshops. Cheryl, as a peer mentor and part of the Starting Points Networks, is another framework that the state helps contribute, but it really is only as good as the local folks that are really implementing. Research shows that mentoring, the one-on-one, on-site typically, or just one-on-one support can really, really make the difference around quality and or being inspired to move forward in quality. And I'm thinking maybe, Cheryl, you want to speak a little more about the mentoring that you do in the VB3 project?
Sure. I'm actually a mentor for the Vermont Birth to 3 project. And so I go into providers' homes and I meet them where they're at. And that can be all different levels. And I don't go in with any preconceived notions. I go in there to support them and to help them to get to where they want to be, their professional goals. But with the mentees that I've worked with, I've really seen like huge changes. Like one provider, she had this room that was like a little cluttered and the baby slept in it, and she just said to me, I think I would be scared in here. And I said, I didn't bring it up. She did. And I said, yeah, I think I would be. The next day, she was posting pictures on Facebook and tagged me and said, look what I did to the room. It was amazing. So just having someone come in and not judge you and just meet you where you're at and just want to take you as far as you want to go. So I think that's huge. And I think that raises the quality. And I've learned a lot from the people that I'm working with as well. So it's a win-win, definitely.
Yeah, that's an interesting example of how it can work. And you're right, you're not in there to listen judgmentally. You're very non-judgmental, and you're just trying to get a sense for what is the next step that they're looking to take to try to make things better.
Right. And if they need you to hold their hand, I type up paperwork for them, and then as they slowly let go of the grip they have on your hand, then they become more, they're more self-sufficient. They don't need you as much, which is exactly what you want. But, yeah.
And so the frameworks that we have, the career ladder, which is also, it's a tool for mentors to use and for individuals to use. We haven't mentioned that too much, but it is a framework that has been developed not just by me, but by a lot of good people thinking about things, and it allows people to use their training in a way that it can build.
Yes.
And it's recognized in STARS and all other kinds of ways, so that's good. And people like Michelle are helping providers, and Cheryl are doing that as well. And then STARS. That's a structure that is supposed to be helpful, and I think it is.
Definitely good. No, it is. It definitely
is. Supposed to be helpful.
It is. It's a guide, and it's great.
And there are, it's the financial benefits for families and to some degree providers, because there are bonuses for participating in STARS. Vermont has really put some dollars behind it, as well as some funding for professional development that there's never enough, but there are those kinds of things that are out there that hopefully are making a difference, and I think they are.
It definitely is, from this perspective.
Now, are there any other thoughts that you'd like to share before we're done today? Michelle, I know there were some things that perhaps you wanted to mention.
Yeah. Well, just to kind of summarize some of the stuff that we've talked about today, I think, when I think about childcare and parents and guardians selecting care, what I think I want people to know is that it's really not a one-size-fits-all model. It's really about taking the time to find the program and the program philosophy that fits for you and your family to meet the needs of the family. As we talked about, that optimal care right from the beginning is so critical for child development that we really want parents to take the time to select the right program for them. Can
I just add to that? I think the hugest compliment as a provider is when a parent comes after a couple of days with their children in your care and says, I don't even think about calling. I know my child is safe and they're loved and cared for. That's huge.
Oh, yeah.
That's huge.
Yep.
I think the other thing that I always think of, too, when I think about this conversation is really about the providers themselves, the people that are providing this early childhood and after-school education to support children and families, and really just thinking about their dedication. A lot of these folks work 10, 12-hour days, and, sometimes it's really about stopping and thanking them for their work, because without them, as we know, it would be really hard for families to work, which would really put a strain on our business community. So it's about taking the time to appreciate them and all that they're doing also.
Any other final comments that anyone would like to make?
I'm the state lady, and I just wanted to say that Franklin Grand Isle is really well supported, and there's never enough resources anywhere to do everything we want, but Michelle and the folks at your agency are doing a fine job, and the Starting Points Networks and Cheryl's work, it really stands out, and I'm really glad to be here to be able to say that on public access television.
Well, that's greatly, I'm sure Michelle I'm speaking for her, but greatly appreciated. And I think it's important that local families do understand the terrific work that Michelle and her team and others at NCSS are providing on a day-in, day-out basis. And I think it's one of those situations where a lot of times, as Michelle said, this gets overlooked. I mean, everybody's running throughout the course of the day.
Right.
And sometimes people fail to just take a step back and thank the individuals that are really, really making a difference in their children's and their families' lives. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, our session this month has come to a close. And I certainly want to thank my special guests, Jan Walker, Cheryl Wells, and Michelle Treya, for being on the show today and for sharing their insights on quality child care in Franklin and Grand Isle counties. I also want to thank you, the viewer, for spending time with us again this month. I'm Joe Halco, and I'll be back next month with another episode of NCSS Here for You. This has been another episode of NCSS Here for You. We hope that you found today's discussion informative and educational. For over 50 years, Northwestern Counseling and Support Services has been providing access to quality psychosocial services to the residents of Franklin and Grand Isle counties. Over the years, as the needs of the community have changed, so too have the programs and services that we make available to assist children, adolescents, adults, families, and seniors. Thanks once again for tuning in this month. NCSS's purpose remains creating a stronger community, one person at a time.